He found 2 orphan girls guarding her mother's body. The rancher said, "You're coming with me, kid." The year was 1865, and the frontier stretched out like a great, unkind sea, wide, wind-scoured, and waiting for man to lose himself in it. Cole Maddox rode through the heat-shimmering plain with the steady patience of someone who had lived longer with silence than with people. His horse moved in an unhurried trot, hooves thudding dully against parched earth. A storm of dust swirled behind him, settling in the creases of his coat and the thick weave of his gloves. He didn't mind. Dust meant he was still riding, still breathing, still moving far enough ahead of the ghost behind him. But that afternoon something strange pierced the monotony. Not the wind, not a coyote call. A sound smaller, sharper, like a sob swallowed too quickly. He slowed his horse, touched the butt of his revolver, and listened. The land held its breath. Then came the sound again, faint but certain, someone crying. Cole dismounted quietly, boots sinking into brittle grass. The sun hung low enough to bleed orange across the horizon, and the world seemed to waver in its heat. He walked toward the sound, every instinct sharpened. On the frontier, a cry rarely meant anything good. It might be a trap. It might be a dying traveler. It might be a grief too heavy for one small soul to carry. As he approached the rise of a hill, a single crow lifted from the ground and flapped into the sky with a harsh caw. Cole felt his chest tighten. That was never a good sign. He crested the hill and halted. Down in the shallow basin below lay a broken wagon. Its wheels snapped and its canvas torn like a wound in the world. But that wasn't what froze him. Kneeling beside a still, covered figure were 2 little girls. They were small things, thin as fence rails and coated in dust, with faces streaked from dried tears. The older one, maybe 10, clutched a stick like a weapon, her knuckles white with defiance. The younger, perhaps 6, pressed herself against the older girl's side, trembling but silent. Their mother, Cole guessed at once, lay beneath the torn blanket the girls had pulled over her body. Even from yards away, he could smell the stale, sorrowful stillness of death. His breath hitched just for a moment. The world had a brutal habit of repeating its cruelties. He stepped forward slowly, hands lifted, voice low and gentle, as though approaching a frightened colt. "Easy there," he said. "I'm not here to harm you." The older girl stiffened, angling her body to shield her sister. She raised her makeshift weapon and hissed through clenched teeth, "Stay back." Her voice cracked at the end, fragile but fierce. Cole stopped a few paces away. "My name's Cole Maddox," he said. "I was passing through. Heard you crying. Thought you might need help." The girl's eyes narrowed, sharp, haunted eyes, but she didn't lower the stick. The younger girl peeked at him, her small face blotchy with fear. "Lydia, I'm hungry," she whispered. Lydia, as Cole now knew her name, swallowed hard but didn't take her gaze off him. "I said stay back," she repeated. "We don't trust strangers." Cole nodded. "Smart of you." He glanced at the blanket-covered form. "Is that your ma?" Lydia's jaw tightened, and the stick trembled in her grip. "She's not gone," she said, but the protest rang hollow, even to her own ears. The little one choked back a fresh sob. Cole removed his hat, a gesture of respect, and knelt beside his horse's saddlebag without coming any closer. He pulled out his canteen and a wrapped piece of jerky, then set them on the ground. "I'll leave these right here," he said. "If you want them, take them. If not, I'll move along." He backed away 2 steps. Lydia hesitated before darting forward, snatching both items and retreating again. She handed the jerky to her sister, who tore into it with desperate hunger. Cole watched, his heart twisting. No child should know that kind of fear. After a long silence, Lydia spoke again, voice rough. "She tried to save us," she murmured. "Ma told us to hide under the broken crates when the men came. They were after the wagon, after what was inside. We don't know exactly. Ma didn't tell us everything." She looked down at the covered body. "They shot her. She fell. She told me to look after Mari." Mari leaned close and clutched her sister's torn sleeve. Cole felt an old wound open in his chest, one he'd spent 4 years trying to bury. He saw flickers of his own daughter's face, the way she looked just before fever took her, small and scared yet trusting him to keep the world gentle a little longer. He cleared his throat, voice thick. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "No child ought to bury their mother." Lydia stared at him, suspicion warring with exhaustion. "We're not going anywhere," she said stubbornly. "We're staying here till Ma wakes up." Mari whimpered, curling into herself. Cole took a slow step closer. "Kid, she ain't waking up." Lydia's face crumpled, but she held her ground, stubborn and trembling. Before he could say another word, distant hoofbeats thundered across the plains. Lydia jerked her head up, terror flaring instantly in her eyes. Mari froze. Cole spun, his hand flying to his revolver. 3 riders appeared over the horizon, silhouettes sharp against the sinking sun, guns slung at their hips. The same men, Cole guessed, who had destroyed the wagon. Lydia pulled Mari behind her, gripping the stick again, even though it was useless against bullets. "They're coming back," she whispered. Cole moved without hesitation. "Into the rocks," he ordered. "Go!" Lydia didn't argue. She scooped Mari into her arms and scrambled toward the cluster of boulders. Cole positioned himself between the girls and the oncoming riders. The bandits slowed when they spotted him, their horses snorting. The leader called out, "Didn't expect company out here." His grin was as rotten as his intentions. Cole kept his stance easy but ready. "Just passing through. Looks like you boys caused trouble." The leader shrugged. "Woman wouldn't give us what we wanted." He spat onto the ground. Had to make an example. The second man swung his gun toward the wagon. "Looks like there's more to take." Cole's eyes flicked to Lydia and Mari, hiding but watching with terror. He let out a breath. Then he moved. His revolver cleared leather before the bandits could blink. The first shot cracked through the heavy air, and the leader jerked back, clutching his shoulder. The others fired wildly. Dust exploded near Cole's boots. He dove behind a rock, reloaded, and fired again. One bandit yelped as a bullet tore through his thigh. The third tried to circle behind, but Cole caught him with a clean shot to the chest. The surviving 2 fled, cursing and clutching their wounds, riding hard into the distance. The sudden silence afterward felt deafening. Cole holstered his gun and turned toward the rocks. Lydia peeked out first. Her face was pale, streaked with soot and fear. Mari clung to her, shaking. Cole approached slowly. "You all right?" Lydia nodded stiffly, though her knees wobbled. "They'll come back," she whispered. "They always come back." Cole scanned the horizon. She was right. Men like that never quit when wounded pride was involved. He clenched his jaw. The girls wouldn't survive another attack. He walked to their mother's body and knelt. "Kids," he said quietly, "we can't stay here." Lydia trembled. "But Ma!" Tears filled her eyes, finally breaking past the wall she'd held up. "I can't leave her," she whispered. Cole bowed his head. "She wouldn't want you dying beside her," he said. Lydia covered her face, shoulders shaking. Mari hugged her tightly. Cole waited several moments before reaching out and gently pulling the blanket higher over the mother's still form. "You honored her," he said. "You protected her. Now let me protect you." Lydia looked up at him, tears carving clean tracks through the dust. Something in her gaze shifted, fear giving way to a desperate kind of trust. As dusk deepened, Cole lifted Mari onto his horse and offered a hand to Lydia. She hesitated only a heartbeat before taking it. With one last glance at the covered body, she climbed up behind her sister. Cole mounted and turned the horse toward the fading light. They rode until night draped itself over the land like a heavy coat. Cole made camp near a cluster of low pines, the air cool and sharp with the scent of sap. He built a small fire, keeping it dim to avoid drawing attention. Mari fell asleep quickly, exhaustion overcoming terror. Lydia stayed awake, sitting stiffly across from Cole, clutching the rusty knife she'd taken from the wagon. Her eyes reflected the flickering firelight, wary but watching him closely. Cole chewed a piece of stale bread before speaking. "You did good back there," he said, "keeping your sister safe." Lydia didn't answer. She stared at the fire, chest rising and falling unevenly. After a long pause, she whispered, "Men kill people out here for nothing. Why'd you help us?" "You didn't have to." Cole stared into the flames. Had a little girl once, he said quietly. Lost her. Fever took her quick. Lydia's grip on the knife loosened. I'm sorry, she murmured. World takes too much from folks, Cole said. But it don't get these two. Not while I'm breathing. Lydia looked at him for a long moment, eyes shining with something fragile, something hopeful. She finally whispered, Thank you. The wind rustled through the pines, carrying the faint scent of rain that might fall by morning. Cole adjusted his coat and added another piece of wood to the fire. He glanced at the two girls, one asleep, one fighting sleep, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Responsibility that didn't weigh like a chain, but like a promise. As the flames danced low, he settled back and kept watch. The frontier was unforgiving, but it had given him a choice tonight. Protecting these girls wasn't a burden. It was a chance to keep his broken world from staying broken. And as the night wrapped around them, he knew one truth as clear as the stars above. A lonely man might ride far, but fate always knows where to find him. The morning rose pale and brittle over plains, brushing the world in a weak gold that did little to warm the cold settling into Cole's bones. He had slept lightly, waking at every shift of wind, as though expecting the bandits to appear from the darkness. When the sun finally crested a low ridge, he found Lydia already awake, sitting rigidly by the dying fire. Her knife lay across her lap, its rusty edge catching the faint light. Mari slept against her sister, her small face relaxed for the first time in days. Cole studied them quietly, the stubborn strength in Lydia's shoulders, the fragile hope clinging to Mari's breath. These children had lived through hell, and hell, he knew, had a habit of circling back to finish what it started. He tossed aside his blanket and rose, wincing at a sharp pull in his shoulder where a bullet had grazed him the night before. Lydia's eyes snapped to him, alert, cautious, but not as hostile as before. We need to move, Cole said. Those men won't quit, not with their pride wounded. Lydia nodded, though fear flickered across her features. Mari stirred, rubbing her eyes with small fists. Are we safe now? She whispered. Cole crouched beside her and shook his head gently. Not yet, little bird, but we will be if we're smart. He saddled his horse, tightened the straps, and helped the girls mount. As they rode away from the smoldering fire, Cole felt the eyes of the frontier on them, as though the land itself were waiting to see what they'd do next. They rode for an hour before Cole noticed the first sign of danger. Fresh hoofprints cut through the dirt like scars, deep and chaotic, too recent to ignore. He halted the horse and knelt, brushing his fingers over the disturbed soil. They're tracking us, he said quietly. Lydia stiffened, clutching Mari's arm. How close? Cole stood slowly, close enough that we can't afford to stop. He listened to the land as he'd been taught years ago by cowhands older and wiser than he'd ever be. The wind carried no voices, no metal clicks, no snorts of horses. But he felt the pursuit like a weight in the air. He helped the girls down and led the horse on foot to disguise their trail, weaving through scrub and narrow ridges. Lydia walked stiffly beside him, determined despite her fatigue. Mari stumbled, and Cole scooped her into his arms without slowing. The child clung to his coat, burying her face against him. Lydia watched, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. She tried to hide it, but Cole saw the question forming there, whether she could rely on him, whether trust was something she could risk. He didn't press her. Trust on the frontier wasn't given. It was earned inch by inch, moment by moment. By midday they reached a broad river, its water running fast with spring melt. Cole frowned. Crossing would be dangerous, especially with children, but leaving their footprints on open ground was worse. We cross here, he said. Lydia looked at the rushing current and shook her head. It's too strong. Cole's voice softened, but he didn't bend. It's the only way. He carried Mari first, holding her tight as he stepped into the icy water. The current slammed against him, threatening to drag him downstream, but he dug his heels into the riverbed and pushed forward. Mari's breath came in gasps. Don't drop me, she whispered. Never, Cole said. Reaching the other side, he set her down and motioned for Lydia. The girl stepped into the water with forced courage, her jaw clenched. Halfway across, her boot slipped on a slick stone. She cried out as the current yanked her sideways. Cole lunged, plunging back into the river. His hand closed around her arm just as she went under. Water surged over them, cold as winter death. Cole hauled her upright, pulled her close, and fought the river's pull until they staggered onto the far bank. Lydia coughed, shaking uncontrollably. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I thought I could do it." Cole brushed wet hair from her face. "You don't have to do everything alone," he said. "You're a child, Lydia." She looked away, voice trembling. "I don't get to be one." Cole's chest tightened. He knew that feeling too well, growing up too fast because life demanded it. He draped his coat over her shoulders before leading them onward. The land thickened into low brush, the kind cougars favor for stalking prey. Cole kept his revolver close, senses sharp. The horse snorted uneasily. Lydia walked beside Mari, one hand clutching her sister and the other gripping her knife. A faint rustling to the left made Cole stop abruptly. "Don't move," he said. Lydia froze. Mari whimpered. From the shadows emerged a tawny shape, eyes glowing amber in the dim light. The cougar stepped forward, sinewy and silent, tail twitching. Cole raised his gun. The cougar crouched, muscles coiling. Everything seemed to hold still, the air, the girl's breath, Cole's pulse. Then the animal sprang. Cole fired. The shot cracked through the clearing, and the cougar jerked sideways, wounded but not dead. It snarled, retreating with limping steps before vanishing into the brush. Mari clung to Lydia, shaking. Lydia's breath came in sharp gasps. "I thought it would kill us," she whispered. Cole holstered his gun. "Not while I'm here." Lydia looked at him with something like awe, something like fear. The moment passed quickly, but it bonded them further than any words could. By late afternoon, the sky darkened with gathering clouds. They pushed forward, needing shelter. The land rose and dipped until they reached a grove where an elderly Cheyenne woman sat beside a small fire, her long silver hair braided neatly down her back. She looked up as they approached, eyes sharp but calm. Cole slowed. Encounters with strangers were risky, but the woman's presence carried an air of quiet authority. She spoke first. "You move like hunted deer, rancher." Cole stiffened. Lydia pulled Mari behind her. The woman motioned to a log near her fire. "Sit. The little ones are cold, and you are bleeding." Cole glanced at his shoulder, where dry blood had seeped through his shirt. He had been ignoring the wound. He hesitated before sitting. The woman, Naya. She introduced herself, cleaned the injury with practiced hands. Lydia watched her warily. Mari, curious, inched closer. Naya smiled gently at the younger girl. "You are brave to have come this far." Mari whispered. "Ma used to say bravery is doing what you're scared of." Naya nodded. "Your mother was wise." Lydia's lip quivered at the mention of her mother, but she straightened her spine. "We don't trust people easily," she said. Naya met her gaze. "Good. Trust is a sharp knife. It can protect or cut." She turned to Cole. "Those men chasing you, bad spirits cling to them. They belong to a cruel one. He will not stop." Cole's jaw hardened. "Then we move tonight." Naya handed him a small pouch of herbs. "This will keep the fever away." Before they left, Naya leaned close and murmured, "You carry ghosts, rancher. But these children, perhaps they carry the light that breaks them." Cole didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing at all. They continued into dusk, climbing to the narrow hill pass that curled like a serpent between rising stone. Lydia hated the way sound echoed there, as though every step they took made the canyon whisper back. Cole kept his gun drawn, sensing danger. And danger came. A bullet ricocheted off the stone inches from his head. "Down!" he barked. Lydia shoved Mari to the ground as bandits appeared on the ridge above, their silhouettes outlined by the dying light. Cole fired quickly, forcing them to scatter. Stone chips flew in every direction as bullets struck the canyon walls. The noise thundered around them. Cole grabbed Lydia's arm and pulled her toward a crevice. "Stay low," he said. Lydia shielded Mari with her own body, teeth clenched in fear. Cole darted from cover to cover, firing at the bandits who tried to descend the ridge. One bandit slipped and tumbled, his gun skittering across the ground. Cole shot another in the leg. sending him sprawling. The remaining attacker retreated. The pass fell silent, except for Lydia's shaky breaths. Cole crawled back to them. "We keep moving," he said. Lydia nodded, though her face was pale. The encounter had shaken her, but it had also steeled something inside her. Night found them in a small clearing sheltered by leaning pines. Cole built another small fire, careful to keep it low. Mari clung to him while Lydia paced restlessly. When she finally sat, she looked at Cole with troubled eyes. "They want to kill us," she said. Cole nodded. "Yes." Lydia chewed her lip. "Why?" Cole hesitated. "Because you saw what they did, and because evil men don't like loose ends." Lydia swallowed hard. "Will you leave us when it's too dangerous?" Cole stared at her, the firelight flickering across his worn features. "No," he said. "I failed my family once. I won't fail you." Lydia's expression softened, but there was pain in it too. "You had a family?" Cole nodded. "A wife, a daughter." Lydia leaned forward. "What happened to them?" Cole exhaled slowly. "Disease, quick and merciless." Mari rested her head on his knee. Lydia whispered, "I'm sorry." Cole touched her shoulder briefly. "The world takes from us. But sometimes it gives back." Lydia blinked back tears. For the first time since he'd met her, she didn't hide her vulnerability. "I miss her," she said. "My mother. I keep thinking maybe she'll be there when I wake up." Cole nodded. "Grief plays tricks, but she wants you to live." Lydia inhaled sharply. "I want to, but I'm scared." Cole looked at both girls. Being scared means you understand the danger. Living through it means you're stronger than it. The fire crackled softly. Mari fell asleep first, her tiny hand wrapped in Cole's coat. Lydia leaned against a pine tree, exhaustion in every line of her body. For a long while they sat in silence. Finally, Lydia whispered, "Why help us, Cole?" "Really?" Cole stared into the flames. "Because someone should have helped my daughter. Because I know what it is to lose everything. And because the world's hard enough without leaving children to fend for themselves." Lydia's throat bobbed. "Will it ever get better?" Cole nodded slowly. "With time, and with people who care." Lydia considered that, her stubborn heart softening. She lay down next to Mari, eyes drifting shut. Cole stretched his coat over them both. As the fire dimmed and stars glittered across the sky like scattered silver dust, Cole kept watch. He could feel danger prowling somewhere out there, bandits, beasts, the harsh cold of the night. But he also felt something else. A purpose, a fragile flicker of hope he hadn't known in years. The girls needed him. And he, in some quiet corner of his soul, needed them too. Dawn would bring more trials. The frontier was not done testing them. But as Cole sat beneath the endless sky, revolver in hand, he made a silent promise. He would see them to safety, no matter what hell they had to ride through to reach it. The morning rose slow and gray, its light pushing through the cabin's shuttered windows like a tired hand feeling along a dark hallway. Cal Adler had been awake long before the sun broke the horizon. Sleep wasn't something a man like him expected anymore. Not now. Not after everything the past week had carved into his life like a brand burned deep into hide. The girls were still sleeping. Lydia curled close to the hearth, her little sister made tucked beneath Cal's old cavalry coat. He watched them breathe. Soft, uneven, a reminder that they were still fighting their way back into a world that hadn't been kind to them. Their mother's death had hollowed them out. The trail that followed had scraped the rest. But at least they were alive. Alive because he had chosen not to walk away. Alive because someone had to stand between them and every evil that prowled the frontier pretending to be a man. Cal stepped outside quietly, his boots sinking into mud left by last night's heavy rain. The trees smelled of water and pine sap, but under all that, he caught another scent. Smoke. Not from the cabin. Not from any settler who had business being this far out. This was campfire smoke, the kind built fast by men who didn't care who knew they were coming. He scanned the tree line, every instinct sharpened by years in war and on the trail. He didn't like what he saw, or rather what he didn't see. No birds lifted from branches. No rabbits darted through brush. The woods had gone quiet, as if holding their breath. Cal felt his jaw tighten. The gang hadn't given up. They wanted the girls. Not for mercy, not for justice, but to wipe away witnesses. A mother's murder was an ugly thing. Leaving her daughters alive to speak of it was uglier still for the men who'd done it. He went back inside and shut the door softly, though his pulse pounded hard in his ears. Lydia stirred as he crouched beside her. Her eyes blinked open, still swollen from tears. "Is it morning?" she whispered. "It is." His voice was steady, calm, even though every part of him wished he could buy them more time. "We need to move. Right now." May woke with a soft whimper, reaching for her sister. Lydia held her close, the way a girl forced to be a mother too soon would. Cal didn't waste breath explaining danger. Kids who'd seen what they had didn't need anything spelled out. They understood death better than most grown men. He helped them pack what little they had, blanket, bread, a tin cup. His own gear was ready within moments. Rifle shouldered, pistol loaded, knife at his belt. Before they stepped outside, he knelt so he was eye level with them. "Stay behind me, no matter what." Lydia nodded immediately. May copied her, though her lower lip trembled. "You won't leave us?" she asked in a small voice that hit Cal harder than any bullet. "Not today," he said. "Not ever if I can help it." They slipped into the trees, Cal guiding them toward a narrow ravine he knew well, a place where the land tilted down into a rocky throat carved by time and storms. Hard ground, difficult for horses, good for buying minutes they desperately need. He kept the girls close, glancing back often, listening for branches snapping or hooves striking root. For a long stretch, there was only the sound of their breathing and the steady trickle of a nearby stream. But Cal knew better than to trust silence. The frontier taught a man many lessons. One of the cruelest was this: danger rarely arrived with warning. When the first shot cracked through the trees, it came from the left, chipping bark off an oak trunk inches from Cal's head. He shoved the girls down into the underbrush, shouting, "Stay low." Another shot rang out. Then another. Voices followed, rough, hungry for violence. The gang was here, and they weren't hiding. Cal fired back once, not to kill but to force them behind cover. Then he grabbed Lydia's hand and pulled her up. "Run," he barked. They sprinted down the ravine, their feet sliding on wet stone. Cal stayed behind them, turning every few steps to fire at the shadows weaving between trees. The men cursed, their boots pounding after them. A fallen log blocked the ravine's mouth. Cal lifted May over, then hoisted Lydia. He swung himself across just as a bullet struck the log behind him with a sharp thud. They reached the stream bed, breath tearing from their chests. Cal dragged them toward a cluster of boulders where the land rose sharply. They scrambled up. Another shot whined past. May slipped, crying out. Cal caught her under the arms and pushed her ahead, ignoring the sting of a graze along his shoulder. They reached a narrow ledge and squeezed behind a rock shelf, hidden except for the faint tracks they'd left below. Cal pulled his rifle close, chest heaving. Lydia pressed her hand against his arm. "Are they going to find us?" He looked at her face, dirt-streaked, frightened but alive. "Not if I breathe first," he said. Minutes stretched long as rope. The gang's voices drifted through the ravine, arguing. Then a shot fired into the air, an order to split up. Cal's stomach sank. They weren't giving up soon. He kept the girls close as they moved along the rock ledge, their bodies squeezing sideways between stone and drop. It led to an outcrop overlooking the valley. From here, Cal saw something he hadn't expected. Smoke rising from the east. Not campfire smoke. Chimney smoke. That meant settlers. Maybe safety. Maybe help, if they could reach it. "We're going that way," he said, pointing. Lydia squinted. "Is it far?" "Far enough," he answered. "But we're making it." They descended carefully, Cal going first to help them down. Once they reached softer ground, he led them at a steady pace through thick brush and uneven dirt. His shoulder throbbed, warm with blood, but he ignored it. The girls didn't complain. Not once. Fear gave them strength. Hours passed. Noon came and went. The smoke column grew closer. but so did the sound of pursuit. A single gunshot echoed behind them. Fired not at them but in the air. A signal. Cal swore under his breath. "They're pushing us somewhere," he muttered. Then he realized where. The river. Wide. Fast. Unforgiving this time of year. The settlers' homestead lay across it. The gang knew they'd be forced toward it. That knowledge made Cal's skin crawl. They broke through the tree line and reached the riverbank. Water churned brown and fierce. Lydia froze. We can't cross that." Her voice cracked. May clutched her hand. Cal scanned the bank. The only real option was a fallen cottonwood stretching halfway across before dipping into water. A natural bridge, unstable, slippery, but their best hope. He crouched beside the girls. "Listen, you're going to cross one at a time. Slow. Use your hands, not just your feet. Don't look down. Look at me." Lydia swallowed hard but nodded. "I'll go first," she said, surprising him. She climbed onto the trunk, fingers gripping bark slick with moss. Cal kept a hand on her back until she was beyond his reach. She moved carefully, inch by inch. May was next. She trembled so hard the trees shook beneath her. "Eyes on me," Cal said softly. "That's it. Just me." She followed her sister across. Then Cal stepped onto the trunk. Halfway across, he heard the sharp report of a rifle. A bullet splintered would near his foot. Another crack past his ear. The gang had reached the riverbank. Cal forced himself forward, heart hammering. He leaped the last stretch, landing hard beside the girls. They ran together into the brush on the far side. Shots followed them, but grew distant once trees swallowed them whole. By the time they reached the small homestead, Cal's knees nearly buckled. A woman rushed out, apron stained with flour, eyes widening at the sight of them. "Lord above, what happened?" Cal steadied himself on the railing. "Trouble behind us. Need shelter. Just the girls." The woman nodded quickly and ushered them inside. A man joined her, rifle ready, jaw set. Good folks. Hard folks. Cal felt relief slip through him like warm water. Inside the cabin, May and Lydia were given blankets and a corner near the fire. Cal stood near the door, watching through the window as storm clouds gathered. The man of the house approached him. "You're hurt." "Had worse," Cal muttered. "Danger coming?" "Yes." "We'll stand with you, then." Those words cracked something inside Cal he hadn't realized was still fragile. But before he could answer, Lydia walked up to him. Her eyes were wet but steady. "Will we be safe?" she asked. Cal rested a hand on her shoulder. "I'll make damn sure of it." The gang arrived not long after, their horses restless, their shouts confident. They wanted the girls. They wanted silence. And they believed fear would deliver it. But fear didn't live in Cal Adler anymore. Too much had been taken for that. Too much paid. He stepped onto the porch with the settler man beside him. Thunder grumbled above. The leader of the gang rode forward, smirking. "Give us the girls, and maybe we'll let the rest of you breathe." Cal stepped ahead, rifle raised. "You first," he said calmly. Gunfire tore the air apart. Cal moved like a man who danced with death before and learned its rhythm. He dropped two riders in quick succession. The settler fired beside him, driving the others back. The final shot cracked across the yard, a desperate wild bullet, and Cal felt it punch into his side. He staggered, gripping the post to keep from falling. The gang fled, broken and bleeding, vanishing into the storm. Rain fell hard and cold as Cal sank to one knee. Lydia ran out, ignoring the woman shouting after her. She knelt beside him, tears streaking her face. "Don't go," she whispered. Cal forced a smile, though each breath burned. "Not going. Just sitting a spell." She pressed her small hand against his bleeding side. "You saved us." "You saved yourselves," he said. "I just kept watch." The settler carried him inside. The room spun. The fire crackled faintly. May curled beside Lydia, both watching him with wide, frightened eyes. Cal lay back, closed his eyes, hearing rain rattle the cabin roof. He wasn't dying. Not today. But he knew recovery would be long. Hard. And the girls, The girls needed more than a wounded man. Later, as night thickened, Lydia sat beside him. What happens now? He looked at her, this girl who'd faced death twice and still stood. Now, he said softly, you start living again, and I'll be right here until you do. She leaned gently against him, his arm wrapped around her shoulders. Outside, the storm eased. The frontier had taken much. But in that small cabin, with 2 orphan girls resting against him, Cal felt something he hadn't felt in years. A reason to stay. A reason to fight. A reason to heal, even if the cost of getting here had carved scars that would never fully fade. And maybe that was the way of things. Maybe the West didn't give peace easily. Maybe it asked a price for every breath. But as Cal looked at the girls now safe beside him, he knew some prices were worth paying, even the bitter ones.